When will the parabolic stage start? So this is going to be the question that we're going to answer today, guys. Welcome to Bitcoin Predator. We're going over some charts, my perspective over the next few weeks. We're going to talk about also what we are waiting for next week, and after all that, why I believe that the parabolic phase is still coming. So heading over to the weekly chart right here, we saw a drop of the Bitcoin price of around 11.47%, and after 3 weeks of bear market, we recovered quickly within 1 week. Now Bitcoin price, when it moves, it actually liquidates pretty quickly fair value gaps and order blocks without going too much further down. I have seen that around 10 to 11%, that's how much the price goes down in order to grab liquidity and continue its way up. During the weekend, we got some tension from the Middle East between Iran and Israel, which made the price to go as further as the 98,000 level. And I believe this is going to be the new baseline for the 60-day cycle low before continuing its way up and getting right translated for the new all-time high. Within only 1 day, we got back from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of bear market recovered in only 1 day. And this is what I tell everyone. You gotta be careful with the narrative that the news and everyone else is talking about on Twitter and on YouTube. Usually, those narratives just support the cycles. And after a lot of fear during the weekend that we saw right here, everyone was fear selling. That's what institutions actually want you to do. I even talked about that on my Twitter account. We recovered quite quickly to the neutral phase again, and magically the war is over. It doesn't actually matter if the current geopolitics is right or wrong, if it's predictable or not, but usually it's just a support for the current narrative for the 60-day cycle low. On the 4-hour chart, I can even confirm that Bitcoin price always grabs liquidity by causing inducement on the price in order to get those liquidations from over leveraged traders. And you can notice that by the liquidation heat map, where we get huge chunks of liquidation took over and over again, and then the same to the upside. We now have a huge block of liquidation right here waiting on the upside, which I think is going to be taken out over the next few days or weeks. Now, when it comes to the next points of interest in order to get a trade entry, we had a weak order block on the 1 hour right here around the 104 and 103 600,000 level, and we got another one right here on the 101 and between the 99 600,000 level. But this order block, this first order block on the 1 hour, I think is a weak one because we still have a huge imbalance right before that in order to get to the next strong order block on the 1 hour. So what I think is going to happen over the next few days is that the price will continue its way down and getting a quite aggressive liquidity sweep to the downside before continuing its way up. Now, when we are actually looking for the refinement of entry, we can see that we have a huge opportunity right here on the 100,700 and 99,700 level. I dare to say that the price even might get as further as the 98,000 again, but I don't think this is quite possible. I think it is going to stop on the 99,600. But this is just my opinion. This is not financial advice. Because as you know, and as I mentioned before, Bitcoin price likes to trap. It usually behaves in a downtrend right here, grabbing liquidity its way down, and I think it is still a high probability that the price might get as further down as 95,700 before continuing its way up. Everything is possible in the market. In this case, I still think it is quite unlikely because we got the RSI at the beginning of this week that have been down as further as the 39 level. It hasn't reached the actual oversold level of 30, but when you think about a bull run, when you think about an uptrend, this is quite further down. That's the same level that we started that last stage of the bull run, right here on April 8th. And I think that this behavior is actually repeating. And also, just like I mentioned in my previous video, I expected the price of my Predator oscillator to touch the momentum line before continuing its way up again. And another indicator that's bringing a lot of concerns to the traders in general is the M2 Global Liquidity Index. According to the M2, we should have already broken the all-time high from previous days. But just like I mentioned on one of my videos, although the M2 Global Liquidity is a good indicator for you to have an overall idea of the Bitcoin trend, you should not use it as a price prediction tool, because the correlation varies. It is never one-to-one. Actually, what I expect the behavior of the Bitcoin price compared to the global M2 liquidity over the next few days is exactly this stage right here. I think we are still going to bounce up and down before continue to go up. And even though we will go up, I don't think it's going to be super massive, at least for the time being. But I do trust that we have hit the 60-day cycle low. And from now on, we are going to have better price discovery. We got to remember that the M2 Global Liquidity has an offset. So it is quite possible that the Bitcoin price actually goes to the other direction of the M2, just like it did before. So we have to be open to any possibilities. And that's where risk management comes into place. You have to be open to both scenarios and be prepared for them. But my bullish bias is based on the fact that we still have a lot of institutional money coming into the Bitcoin. We still have a lot of ETFs inflow right here. We got a short outflow over there, but not a big deal. Overall, we still have a lot of inflows. On the other side, we have the number of active addresses going down, and the big thing is when the institutions have no more retail wallets to buy Bitcoin without changing the price, they are going to rely on the exchange. That time is coming closer and closer, and when they rely to the exchange, the price will spike. We also have the Fear and Greed Index back on the neutral level, so we expect it to continue to the neutral level before continue to greed. And my favorite indicator right here, the MVRVZ score, is still on the solid uptrend. I think it is going to sustain the same way, perhaps a short pullback right here in the short term and continue its way up. And not only ETFs, we still see other institutional players coming into the game. That's why I say that this Bitcoin cycle is different, because we have different players. Even though I still believe that the cycle will be respected, but the price behavior might be a little bit different. We see right here new perspectives from the central bank itself that removed the reputational risks for Bitcoin and crypto banking. This is more adoption from institutions and offering Bitcoin as a way of investing for the common public. Something else that we see is a lot of Bitcoin treasury companies coming into place, which also means more adoption, more Bitcoin inflows, not only from ETFs but also from other institutions. Even John Powell also said that banks are free to provide banking services to the crypto industry and are also free to conduct crypto activities. So you see massive adoption across the board in all players, also from the government itself. We also see more facilitation for the general public to transact Bitcoin. New MasterCard crypto partnership allows 3 billion cardholders to buy Bitcoin on-chain. So again, much more adoption to the public in general. We also see that the government is actually pushing forward Bitcoin and crypto in general projects in the government. Big players such as BlackRock, MicroStrategy, and also, again, GameStop raised $450 million to raise more and more Bitcoin. Not only in the US, but also in Japan, MetaPlanet raised $570 million for more Bitcoin. So as you can see that there is a chain reaction going on right here. Private companies, ETFs, Bitcoin treasury companies, and also starting out banks. So now you can use Bitcoin as an asset for a mortgage. I mean, this is huge. It means that the banks and general financial institutions trust Bitcoin as a backup asset. We still have a high expectation when it comes to the rate cut this year. I think Powell is still waiting for a better, more solid data in order to get a confirmation that they can cut rates. But nevertheless, we can see that everyone is still expecting rate cuts still in 2025. And although I would like to see a similar behavior from previous year of a sudden parabolic stage. We cannot predict for sure if this is going to happen, or actually if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen. But from an overall perspective, we still have around December this year in order to see the price continue bullish before the end of the bull run and then start of the bear market. But anyways, this is what I think for Bitcoin. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.